Hey everybody, it's Neil, and I thought I would make this video talking about infinite banking and or IBC because Agrode was asking some questions about it in short segments, and I were talking about it on a post. So yeah, I thought I'd go through an example here to kind of show how everything can work. The thing about infinite banking is that it's kind of up to you how things work out because it's your money. You get to treat it however you want, and you can maximize things or not. So, um, for those who don't know, infinite banking, it's a concept developed by Nelson Nash. He passed away a little while ago, and basically the idea is that you keep your savings inside a specially designed insurance policy so that you have access to your capital, but it grows at the same time. Also, simultaneous with all that is that because it's inside of an insurance policy and not in a bank, you're opting out of the fractional reserve insanity that is our current monetary system. So there are other attributes too, but those are kind of the basics. So what we're looking at here is actually an illustration of a policy that I own. So this is actually on my wife, and the total premium paid per year is a little under 24,000. So it's 2,000 a month ish, but this is actually set up on an annual premium now. And that money gets split up. So part of it goes towards the base policy of just the insurance, and part of it goes in towards paid up additions. The important difference there is that in a whole life policy like this, the base policy takes a long time for any capital to be available to you to use. But the paid up additions that you put on top of that are immediately available. So you can see here, this is the cash value. And like at the first year, is 16,615 of PUA, or paid up additions, is added at 16,174. So I only lose $500 of liquidity there, but I lose all of the liquidity to the policy premium. Eventually that does catch up, but it takes a little while. So here in year 4, the cash value change from year to year is now greater than the amount I put in. So things are starting to kick in as far as catching up to those initial years of where I lose liquidity. And then down here in year 8 is when the total paid in is equal to the total available in cash value. So this particular company, it does more on what's called more on the guaranteed side. This is a Lafayette policy, and less on the dividend side. So that's just the way they structure it, which is fine. So in this scenario, what I thought was like, well, let's imagine, I get up to 100,000 plus of cash value, and I decide to then go and use that money to buy a B-class kind of rental property in a cash flowing kind of market. Like these places, like some of the good ones are like Nashville or Birmingham or what's another good one? Jacksonville has a lot of these. So these are lower priced markets, not your San Francisco's, not your Miami's, nothing like that. Atlanta's also a good market for this. Lower price market where you're not buying real estate in order to make money on appreciation. You're buying real estate in order to generate cash flow month over month. So I go and I take out a loan of $75,000 to go buy, whatever. And 75 is the all-in cost. So purchase, any fix-up or whatever, curing back taxes, whatever it is. And so when that happens, the available cash value goes from 106 down to 31 because we've taken a loan. So when you take a loan out of one of these policies, the amount available to you drops by the loan amount. And that's just makes sense because you've now taken that money out. Technically what you did is you collateralized that amount of money against the loan from the insurance company, but whatever. So available cash value drops to 31.4 or 451. The house value that I just bought and fixed up and whatever, we're going to assume is $75,000. And the net rent I just put in as 600. So net rent means after expenses. Now, remember, there's no mortgage on this. We own it free and clear. So, repairs, vacancy, and taxes and insurance, basically. Those four things. And $600 on a $75,000, I mean, that's doable. You have to be a little bit smart to get that. If you don't buy quite as well, you might be at like 575 or 550 or 500 maybe. And we'll go through all that. So then this loan that you take out from the insurance company is collateralized by the cash in your policy, but the loan is actually from the insurance company to you. So you owe the insurance company interest. And so I mean normal rates right now are about 5%. So I just put in 5% here just to keep the math somewhat simple. Okay, so the presumption is that I take all of this net rent, after expenses, and I put it back against the loan. So then the loan balance drops by, it increases by 300 and then it drops by 600. So we drop by about 300 net. So that's what February is showing here. So then we go through, month to month, and we go through a year, and then we hit the next policy payment. So another $23,673.84 goes in, and so my cash value jumps. So yes, the loan is paid back a little bit by the 600, and then the available cash goes up because I just put in another payment, which is separate from the housing part. And then we just keep doing that. So year to year, month to month, just keep going through the process. Boom, boom, boom. Chunks going in. Little itty bitty parts going in. You see the interest is dropping as the loan gets paid down. And then here, 14 years later, everything's paid off. So what's interesting to note here is that, so at this point we have assuming there's no appreciation, a $75,000 house, and we have the exact same policy values that we would have had, $598,000. Sitting in cash value in the policy, and we are still making $600 in rent. And what did we have out of pocket? Well, depends on how you look at it, right? So, if we see that we're going to be doing this anyway, then this house was kind of free. We had to capitalize the policy to begin with, but that's what savings are for. And then we took a loan out, and the rent paid the loan. So, like I said, depending on how you look at it, it's kind of like a no money down sort of deal, except you're borrowing against yourself. And that's where if you read Nelson's book, it's called Becoming Your Own Banker, because of this kind of relationship. You're both the borrower and the banker at the same time. So that's kind of cool. But that's assuming $600 of rent all throughout. But, things change. So let's say the rent goes up by $10 every year. $10 isn't a lot, right? So let's do that, do that, do that, do that. And we go here. I suppose I could do this a year at a time, so 710, 720, 730, and now we've cut off 2 years of amortization, basically. So that's kind of cool. But what if you're not as good an investor? What if you don't buy as well? So instead of 600, we start off at 550. Well, then we still are doing okay as long as we keep raising the rent. Obviously the lower amount you make, the longer it will take to pay off. What's also really cool about these kinds of things is that you don't actually have to make this payment. So if you wanted to, you could just let the interest ride, and it'll just get added on. And the increase in the cash value is more than enough to pay for this. So you'll keep coming out ahead, but it will eat into your total potential over time, because the two things are separate. This policy growing is going to grow as long as I keep it in force, and as long as I keep making the premium payments. And this loan against it will, I could pay it back or I could not. It's 100% flexible, because the insurance company already has the money to pay off the loan, so they're not worried about you making good or not, because it's already guaranteed by themselves to be good. So that's kind of a cool thing. There's no qualifications. You just call up the insurance company or email them or fax them or whatever. This particular company, I can log on to my account online and I just click request loan, and they mail me a check. So that's kind of neat. And if you think about it, it's like, well, so let's say we do 600 here. When I get to here, I'm back up to 125. Well, I can then just do it again, right? And you can just keep repeating this over and over again. And it doesn't have to be houses. It could be anything, right? Anything that provides a cash flow will work for this, because you'll be paying down the loan as you go. So why don't you do this for any kind of house that you buy? Because you can. The math works the exact same. The difference is the liquidity. So most people, like real estate investors, do not want to put all of the money from the rent against the loan, because, well, what if there's a surprise vacancy? What if there's a surprise capital expense that they hadn't planned on? All those kinds of things, you need reserves, right? You need to be able to make those payments. So in a mortgage, that money is dead once you put in, because if I had a $75,000 mortgage and I paid in, $600, then A, my payment remains the same no matter what until the balance gets to zero, and B, I can't use that money again until the balance gets to zero or I refinance. So that creates a disincentive to pay down the loan as quickly as possible. And most real estate investors will actually float the loans for as long as possible and maintain a smaller spread. But when you have the access to the capital without any loss, then there's no reason to keep paying that interest. So you want to pay it down as quickly as possible, and then, just rinse and repeat. So eventually, you get however many of these, like how many $600 rents do you need in order to, live your lifestyle? Like for some people, it might be one. for other people, it might be 20, so it just kind of depends. But you can set up a plan for your own life to get to this as quickly as possible. And yeah, I mean, you can use other people's money to make this faster. So, that's what getting a mortgage is. But then you also have the problems with repayments and liquidity and all those things. So there's upsides and downsides, and you can combine the two. There's no limit. That's why it's called infinite. You can do this as many different ways as you want. The only thing I would caution people about is, if you're going to use these loans for non-cash flow things, then it's, you're on the hook for both sides, because you got to keep making the payments, you got to keep the policy in force, and you're going to have this loan interest either building if you don't pay it back, or, you got to come up with the payment somehow. So, really, it can be used for other things, but I think it is best used for cash flowing assets that you have a strong view or strong projection on how well those are going to pay, over, so this is like a 14-year deal or a 13-year deal. So, you want to be confident for that amount of time. So anyway, that's just one example of how you can use a policy like this. And, if you're going to argue about these numbers, these are real numbers. Right now we are in year 3, I think, of this policy. I think I made my 3rd payment. It might be getting close to the 3rd. It's somewhere around there. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord or here, as a comment. And then, happy to answer. I'm not an insurance agent. I used to be an investment advisor, which was different, but, I'm definitely not your advisor. And my license is no longer active. So, Don't hold me responsible. Talk to qualified professionals, all that jazz. But it's interesting stuff. And for the crypto people, this is kind of I call it like crypto for fiat. This is the same kind of opting out of the system, but still in the fiat world, because it's still US dollar based rather than crypto based. So anyway, that's just how I look at it, and we'll see you next time.